What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment. And tonight we're going to do a whole schedule because, A, there's not as many college games as I thought. That there's a good bit of college games, but not the ones that fit the metrics I like. And the Wizards got postponed. So I figure I like to keep it around 10 because it's easier to just split them up that way. But anyway, we do have a good bit. We have a handful of college games I am playing. We have a ton of leg threes today. So while I've decided, like I said, we're not playing a giant schedule. Like some days we play 15, 20 college games. We are going to be doing more leg two, leg threes, just because there's a couple games I really like. So for the NBA, I'm going to run through them, and then I'll show you guys exactly how I plugged it in. Magic, Sixers, I'm just taking the Sixers to cover, leg one. I can go both ways. Magic might get two in a row. I'm just going to take the Sixers, thinking the public might not be loving the 9.5 after they just got beat by this team. Blazers, I think they need the win. I'm taking the points, of course, so Blazers cover. That's going to be a leg two. The reason being, I think they need Dame and to look good against Bane and Ja. I think people are already sold on the Grizzlies. They're not sold on the Pacers. I have the Pacers making the playoffs, or at least the play-in, and I just don't think that with their team that they're not going to, but they need to look good. Honestly, I'm surprised this and the Warriors games weren't the ESPNs, but they have put them on ESPN a few times, or at least on TV, so I get it. But yeah, I like the Blazers to cover. Here I like the Celtics to cover because they're trying to sell us on the fact that the Celtics are as much superior to the Nets as the Sixers are to the Pistons, and that's something I just can't buy. So I think a lot are going to be on the Nets, probably teasing them, probably in a lot of parlays. Definitely people on the money line. Just money's going to be on the Nets tonight. So I like the Celtics as the main public parlay killer, as I like to call it. And I'll gladly lay the 9 points because it's almost like they're begging us to take the Celtics. And now they lie about their injuries. But last I checked, Durant was healthy as a horse when I looked at the injury report. Again, he could be hobbling off the court, and you never know what they do. But either way, the fact that this is the line with them saying he's not hurt makes me think people are going to pound the Nets. So I take the Celtics -9. This next one's an interesting one. It's a leg three. And normally I take the Thunder because I think they want to push them as a good team in SGA, and I think they're going to be a play-in team as well. But they have the best record against the spread. The Rockets have the second worst. So that metric always comes first for me because I know how important it is historically. So I'm taking the Rockets to cover here, as I'm taking the Wolves. I'm taking the Wolves because not only were they saying that the Warriors were a bad road team, and then they started winning, but they weren't really saying that at all, really. At the beginning of the year, when they started losing, I remember them saying specifically that they were bad. They suck on the road against playoff teams. So they were saying they suck on the road, but they were also emphasizing against playoff teams. So here we have a team that's going to make the playoffs this year. I know they are. They're going to flip the Kings, even if people think I'm crazy. I think them, the Suns, the Warriors, the Blazers, I think they all flip the Kings. But anyway, the Wolves here, I think they win. So I'll definitely take them with those points, the 3.5 to cover. That's a leg two. This next one's a leg one, and again, just Spurs cover Kings, just because I think the Kings are going to get flipped, and they're going to get brought down to earth, just like the Jazz have been, just like the Pacers have been, and a lot of other teams. Now, another reason I like the Wolves is they need Russ and, in my opinion, Russ and Edwards to look just as good as Steph and Clay, because right now they're not, and even though they have a better record, people are not percentage-wise they don't, but they're about the same. But people are looking at the Warriors as the much better team. Nobody's put in the same amount of money is not being put on the Wolves that's being put on the Warriors. So I think they need to just look strong. So that's the reason that's another reason I like the Wolves in that game. And then obviously Spurs cover. I like the Raptors to cover. I know they're rebuilding the team, people are telling me, but they haven't done anything significant yet. They still have their, no pun intended, they have their OGs, they have their guys that for the last couple of years have been in the playoffs, they got Siakam, they got good players, they got Van Fleet, they got OG himself. So I think he might be hurt, but I think people are going to be fading them, and I think they need to keep them in that play-in picture. And finally, Hawks. I think they cover. They just lost 2 games to the West. They just lost to I think it was the Pacers, and then the Clippers before that. Before that, I think it was the Wolves. They lost a couple, but the last 2 were Pacers and Wolves. So I think they get it back with a win over the Suns. I went over this before, and I think, not Pacers, I meant Blazers and Wolves. I think this is why I have a good read on the Suns, because they seem to play like this circle where it's like they'll lose to the Clippers, then the Clippers will lose to the Blazers, and then the Blazers will lose to the Suns. And it happens all the time with the Suns, and it happens in the West, I've noticed, more than the East. So I'm taking the Hawks here, and yes, I am going to take them and buy it and take 2 points. People laugh at me, when I take 1.5, 2 points, but you have to understand, with the amount of plays that I've made, there's been plenty of times that 1, 2 points has came through. You can imagine with these amount of plays. Okay, this just starts from the beginning of the Discord, on the 27th after they banned us. My point is, I always take the cover, and if there's 1.5, I'll usually buy it up to 2, because the money line, it seems like it's better value, but over time, there's a reason they set them between 1 and 3 points. They know what people are thinking. Now, I'm going to go into why I like Euro. You'll see what I did for, like, Rockets, for example. All I did was plug it in for leg 3 of our loss, where we had the Hawks covering the Clippers. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you plug in where, as long as it's a leg 3 plugging in for a leg 2. Blazers cover Grizzlies. Well, we had the Wolves covering the Cavs. They didn't. I plugged them in. I guess it would have been more fitting to do Wolves cover Warriors as a leg 2, right? But again, it doesn't matter where you plug it in, as long as it's a leg 2. Now let's get to our first college game. I made Louisville cover Georgia Tech a leg 3. And if there's a reason I don't go into college like the NBA, I genuinely don't know these guys. I don't know their names. I don't know what kind of play they run. I don't know anything. The only thing I can tell you, actually, it's funny, Louisville's brought up. I brought this up twice now. I can name 2 players on a team in college, and that's Mike James and Al Ellis for Louisville. Outside of that, I don't know anybody on Georgia Tech. I don't know if they have a winning record or a losing record. I don't know if their coach has a history of kicking puppies. I don't know anything about these guys. I say this because people still aren't playing the college plays, and they're hitting at like a 70% rate. And you'd think with proof that I know nothing about the sport, it would just show how the numbers are more important than everything else. But anyway, I rest my case. I just, if you want to look at the rest of my my college playlist, it speaks for itself. Navy, Lafayette under, I like that one. And again, that doesn't mean these metrics always are going to hit. I'm going to take a 70% hit rate, especially when we're playing around with leg 3s where we really need the hit. I'm not going to plug in a random basketball NBA game just because it's more fun to watch. Navy, Lafayette. Navy's really good on the over. I think they go under. I made it a leg 2 because they have lost a few, so they're not insane on the over like they were, but it's still enough for me to make them a leg 2. And then I made USF East Carolina a leg 1, okay? So, again, that's just one unit, nothing crazy. I just don't think USF keeps going over. And as you can see, I made Tulsa Cincinnati here a leg, so we don't need this in here twice. So that was in here, and I just plugged it into the Raptors, okay? That's literally all you do. So, for example, and the Suns I'm going to show you guys in a second. So Tulsa covering Cincinnati is another leg 3. So you can see we have Tulsa covering Cincinnati, and we have Louisville covering Georgia Tech as a leg 3. In the NBA, we got the Rockets covering the Thunder as a leg 3. And then we got NBA covering, or we have more leg 2s with the Wolves and the Navy game. So we got a lot of leg 2s, leg 3s in plays. I want to close all of our open sequences. Now, the one here, you'll see the Hawks cover Suns. Why is this in by itself? Well, it's a 10 o'clock game. So let's just say, hypothetically, the Wolves do not cover. Let's just say they let us down. All I'm going to do is this. Bam. And there's our leg 3, okay? If the Wolves do come through, that's even better. Then we just go ahead and let's just say Navy doesn't come through. I think you get the point, okay? That's all I do. So it's going to be a leg 3 for a whatever leg 2 loses. If none of our leg 2s lose, and that's amazing. That's an amazing bridge, to come to. That's a great problem to have. Then I'll just plug it in as a leg 2. And if every pick hits by 10 o'clock, then obviously we'll be doing really good. And I'll just play it as a leg 1. But my point is, that's all I'm doing is I'm just plugging it in for whichever one of these leg 2s loses. Because let's be honest, the odds of closing all 3 leg 2s aren't exactly 100%. And then if they all hit, if there's a leg 1 that misses, what I'm not going to do is make it a leg 4. Okay, so anybody that misses Tulsa, say Tulsa misses, bam, and they plug it in as a leg 4, that is what I don't do. I'll do it sometimes, but that's the crux of the system. That's where people lose all their money. They go leg 4, leg 5, and they don't get the value. I'm content closing out a leg 3. But yeah, this will be a leg 3. I'm just plugging it in for, like I said, if the Wolves don't cover, if Navy doesn't go under. And the good thing is it's a 10 o'clock game. Those are 7 o'clock games. So that's all of our picks. I didn't want to rush through them, but I also wanted to give you guys time to make your picks. So you'll have a couple hours now, and I wanted to go into why I liked each team, and you can see what I mean by legs and exactly where I have all of those games. And the ones that are leg 1s, that's just one unit. We'll talk about Tom Brady's retirement, number 23 retiring, 2 out of 3. Who else could be 2 out of 3, 2, 3? I don't know, but I do think he is passing the torch, so we'll get into that. And again, it's just going to be another headline, Tom Brady retiring. They'll be talking all about that. You see he gets tribute from Watt. They get Mahomes in there, so it'll be really interesting. But like I said, Pat McAfee mentioned something that has me a little skeeved about the Eagles-Chiefs game. And I haven't watched his Gene Steratore video yet, but that I'm going to watch today because I can't imagine he's still talking about it. If he is, that's great. But I imagine those 3 videos he put out yesterday were probably the most, and then he's probably going to do something in a couple days or after the Super Bowl. But like I said, I think it's very important people see the distinction between Pat McAfee now and what he was doing before and just how big of a sellout he is. But I'll go into Brady, I think what that means for the Super Bowl and everything else. I just wanted to get our basketball picks out. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.